Philadelphia Eagles here on Birds 365. Appreciate everybody checking in. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. Chris, Birds win a big game versus Steelers, my man. 10 straight. They're 12-2. They answered some questions in the passing game. What were your first takeaways from what the Eagles were able to do to the Steelers on Sunday?
Well, I was shocked. First off, I know I'm going to start with the Captain Obvious one. I was surprised at the score, the differential. I thought the Steelers, even though without George Pickens, I thought the Steelers would be a lot better, like little bit better offensively. And what the Eagles defense really made things tough for him. Russell Wilson, I was shocked at that. I'll start with the biggest one, and also then I'll start with the biggest story that we were all watching last year was AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts he looked decisive when he saw the guy was getting open. He threw it. He wasn't trigger shy at all, and he still made good decisions. And that's the Jalen Hurts that everybody knows he's capable of being, and helping his team make a run. And if you get that type of performance, he also threw 300 yards. But you don't in this offense. You don't have to have him for 300 yards. You see him continue to throw at the right spots, get the ball out at the right time, and let these guys get the yak after the catch. This offense runs the way did. It is a Super Bowl caliber offense. It really is. And finally, on the switching the other side of the ball, getting back to the defense, I like the way. I'll tell you this: Nolan Smith is really starting to turn into a guy that you can really rely on, and he's really making an impact. And to the point now, when Bryce Huff comes back of IR, I don't know if there's a spot you can really go. Jalen Hunt's starting to contribute sometimes a little bit more. You look at Josh Sweat, the way he's playing. Where's the spot? Where's the spot to play?
I
Like
think there is
sad.
a spot, but I don't think he's going to usurp Nolan Smith. But I think they could use that fourth edge rusher, just to take. I'm talking like
Like
10.
taking 6 on 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a spot for him, but it's not going to be. He's not going to be taking Nolan Smith off the field. Maybe a
Yeah.
little Jalix on. Jalix been fine, but I don't think it's been spectacular. I don't
Yeah.
think he's overwhelmed, but I don't think it's awesome. So I think they could use Bryce Huff at least in the rotation. I think it would
Yeah.
help.
Oh, I think you're at the point now where you get that helmet tap. Somebody goes like, "I need a breather." You put him in it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, exactly.
Charles Harris is. We haven't really
Chuck
seen him
Harris,
for that one
not
too.
is Chuck still here? I think he is. Yeah. But it helps. It also helps, Chris, when you play 43 snaps or whatever they played. Like,
Yeah.
Nolan played essentially the entire game. If they ever get, and we're running out of time, but if they ever get to an offense that can do some things and you're on the field for 60, 65 plays, it doesn't even have to be an 80 play game where your team's really cooking on offense. I think you're going to need that fourth guy. I don't think you can. I don't think Nolan is Max Crosby who can play forever.
No.
And even Max Crosby's hurt now, but he has been good. That was his best game as a pro, I think, against the Steelers. Which, speaking of, in a larger picture, is that the Eagles' best performance of the year?
Oh, I never say so because even though the passing game wasn't that sharp against the Ravens, I just look at the opponent itself and the fact that they were on the road and the way they played down there. I thought that more to me that was the best win going into this game. But the way I'd have to say, yeah, given it was Russell Wilson, it wasn't Russell Wilson of the mid 2010s at all. It still was. I think that was very, very good the way they shut him down. And yeah, I think so. I think it is. Yeah, from top to bottom, that was probably it was the closest they've come to a perfect game. I think so far this year. I think the special teams, besides the Cooper DeJean fumble, I think everything else turned into their way. So yeah, that was probably the most complete game that they played for sure. And you need this to stack up. It's good as it happened at this right time. And the way the schedule works out, the way it's breaking late with the other commanders are tough, but you get the Cowboys and the Giants to work on some things and try to get some more momentum and continue to play these games. You can get some confidence and really keep this thing rolling
Yeah.
into the playoffs. So I think, yeah, I would say it is.
Chris,
Yeah.
I want to
Go
ask
ahead.
Chris about the passing game real quick. How much did the performance on Sunday go in calming or quieting any concerns you had coming into the week on the passing game? It was obviously a big topic of discussion in the city, not just amongst the media, but amongst the team as well, amongst the players in the locker room. They had a big performance. Jalen Hurts, 25 of 32 for 290, high passer rating, couple touchdowns in the air. For me, it was a big step. At least you showed capability. You haven't showed consistency yet, but you certainly showed capability. How far did they go for you in quieting that concern for you?
That they're still, I think it did, especially that they're still capable of doing it. I think that was the biggest thing because when you're in that rut those last 2 weeks, it looked bad. You
Yeah.
know what they say? It wasn't really clicking in that. And I was starting to get worried to the point where, okay, is it Jalen? Are they telling him hold the ball, hold the ball, hold the ball? Okay, now one read, and if you can't find it, just tell him to run. Two reads and look at run that way too. But that hesitation was gone, and I like what they did early. It was a very makeable passes, very early, very high percentage completion passes, routes. Let him get in that rhythm early on, and then the fact that he went to AJ Brown the second play of the game, yeah, that was. I thought he was going to go to the first play of the game, so like, okay, everybody, this is it. There's nothing going on. Here we go. And then the fact they went to the second play, I thought that was speed, but yeah, he looked a lot better, a lot better.
Why do you think, Nick, he did it again yesterday when he was asked about Jalen passer rating? I think Martin asked the question. I think it was about passer rating being over 100 a bunch of times, and he went on this long answer about how efficiently he's played quarterback and it hasn't changed and nothing changed on like if you put Jalen Hurts against Carolina on the screen and then Jalen Hurts about Pittsburgh, that's a different guy. We all know what went on here over the past week. After the game, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith both confirmed there were difficult conversations had during the week. The week prior, after the Carolina game, everybody focused on AJ, but Devontae said the same thing. Jordan said the same thing. Jalen Hurts said the same thing, that the passing game has to improve. Why are we pretending the guy who showed up against Pittsburgh wasn't different than the guy in Carolina?
That's a good question. Like I'm trying to think around you. Like I don't know if maybe it's just a passing yard total. I know when you look at that one, but I think that's a good question. Like I haven't put that, but I don't know if it's something where in terms of it was the stark contrast, like in the way that it just flowed. It just seemed like it flowed a lot more. Even though a lot of route concepts we've seen plenty of times. Back to week 3, week 4, stuff like that. A lot of these route
Oh,
concepts we've
yeah, I
seen go
think the
back that way
difference
too.
was the ball came out. That was the difference.
Yeah, he wasn't holding the ball as long, and it's also I think it was a conscious decision. Like I think after those conversations, it was one of the things I think they needed to do it in order to stop a snowball from happening. Because I think when it starts to get lodged in your mind, like, okay, we're not moving the ball, we can't pass the ball, we can't do anything else. You're at the point where you're starting to look like, okay, it starts to get seeped in your head, and you think like, oh yeah, we really can't pass this ball. So little tweaks were made. I think they sacrificed some more of the runs to even though the running game was good, I think it's safe for someone to run this to throw the ball a little bit more. I'm not saying tremendously, but probably about like 5 or 6 more times when situations where they typically would have ran the ball, they try to throw it. And I look at it in this way, I think that Kellen tried to, simplify things as well too. They went back to basics in a way. So I think when you look at the final total, 290 versus like 108, stuff like that, yeah, it's flowing. The ball's flowing a lot more. He looked more decisive and got the ball out quicker.
Chris, a lot of the words we use here on Birds 365 are the stars have to align. And I look around the NFC right now, and a couple weeks ago, I didn't think the Eagles were the best team in the NFC. But the Lions were up there. I thought the Vikings were up there. I still think the Vikings are there, but you look across and you see the injuries that the Lions are having. think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now as it stands on December 17th.
I think I still can't believe I'm saying this. I think the Bills are still up there. I
That
think
Bills
the Bills
defense,
are
though,
there.
man.
It's
Josh,
yeah, they give it
Josh
40.
Allen just won the MVP, Chris.
Yeah, that performance on the road, I thought that was tough. You know what? Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, they are, because when you look at the Lions now, that their defense, they lost so many players that won't be available. You look at the Vikings. I know that they're 12-2, and I know they still find a way to keep winning. But the fact that I still see Sam Darnold, and even though I watched them last night,
Poor
no better.
Sam. Poor Sam.
They
That was not a good game for Sam last night.
no, not at all.
But
Not-
I'll tell you this. Here's the one thing I'll caution, because look, the Eagles against Pittsburgh, that was their best game of the season, I think. I think you're on board with that. A couple other Baltimore impressive performance, but I thought they were more well-rounded against Pittsburgh than any other game. So that was the Eagles at their top. You only have to go back 7 days and say the Eagles were a Xavier Leggett away from losing to the Carolina Panthers, potentially. 40 seconds left, desperation time, all that kind of stuff. I don't think Minnesota was impressive. I said it earlier in the show last night. But you look up at the end of the game and it's 27-6. I think that says something.
I think it says that the Bears coaching staff Bears need some coaching staff, and need in a bad way. Even though Eberflus going, they need to clean house and find a good offensive
I
coach.
agree with you. I agree with you, Chris. Chicago is a disaster, but Carolina is a disaster too.
I don't know. So I really, when you look at the way, and even though I'm saying it's all coming off from the Cowboys of all teams coming in vote race from their favorite for a time. The way they were playing, especially on their defense, on both sides of the ball, really, the way they were playing up to even through the Eagles game against the Chiefs, that 3-4 game stretch, things were starting to come around, and Canales has them playing well. So I can't just dismiss them completely in that one too, because they're good. All
right, I'm going to push back again. You put that Chicago team next to that Carolina team. Chicago's got DJ Moore, they got Keenan Allen, they got Odunze, they got our old friend DeAndre Swift, they got Cole Kmet. Chicago's Jalen Johnson might be the best cornerback in professional football. They got talent on that Chicago team. You're right. Their coaching staff, their front office is a disaster, but they got way more talent than Carolina. Way more talent.
Yeah, they have more talent, but if I'm putting them in the game, Carolina, the Chicago doesn't know how to use that talent right now. If you put them on a neutral field, if you put both teams right now on a neutral field, I'm taking on a neutral field next Sunday. I'm probably taking the Panthers, because Caleb Williams looks shook. He's getting hit too much.
He's terrible.
He's been hit too much. He's been seeing the ground. So yeah, and I know Chicago plays in the North, the tougher.
He got hit so much yesterday, he laid down on the bench.
Yeah, does Caleb Williams suck, or do the Bears suck with the worst offensive line I've ever freaking seen?
It's a little bit both. He's a USC quarterback playing in the NFL. That's a big red flag to begin with. They're I wouldn't touch a USC quarterback. And
so was Sam Darnold. He's 12-2. Chris, don't sleep on that.
The Minnesota Vikings are 12-2 because of their defense more in Justin Jefferson as opposed to Dan Darnold being.
All right. I partially because I predicted Sam would have a good season, because I like the setup he had last year being with Kyle Shanahan, and now Kevin O'Connell's obviously very good with quarterback. So I think he had a chance. Now, I didn't expect that they'd be 12-2, but he's had a very good season. It might end up as Cinderella. We'll see how it shakes out. But I say today, the best team in the NFC after the Philadelphia Eagles is not Detroit. It's not even Minnesota. It's the third team in the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers.
You're saying best in the NFC or best in the North?
Best in the NFC outside the Eagles.
Oh, outside the Eagles.
So number 2. I think because it's all about attrition. It's all about when you play them. Like if Detroit's healthy, they're the best team in football. They're going to the Super Bowl. They're going to win the Super Bowl. I firmly believe that. They're not healthy. They lost everybody. Right now, I think the Green Bay Packers will be the toughest out for the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. Am I nuts?
No, because I look at the depth they have at wide receiver. Like it's not like they have two, like they can beat you multiple ways. And the one thing that the one type of quarterback that really gives me concern is a guy who not only can have an arm but is mobile, very mobile
Yeah.
against the defense, and that's Jordan Love. I would have said like because I had to really stop and think like, all right, is it the Packers or the Rams? I know you beat the Rams soundly in LA. You'd have them coming out. You'd be having them coming out here into this weather. But I'm like, yeah, Puka and Cup are good, but besides that, you look at kind of like the running game. But I think you can handle them when you have all those aspects of the Green Bay's offense going. They can create some problems. So and yet LaFleur, I know McVay's a really good coach too. I really respect LaFleur too. So I respect him more, even though everything he had to go with Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, I respect him a lot more in terms of that. But you're looking at the Packers; they're tough. I probably put them right now. I still think, yeah, if you're taking the lines out the equation, the Vikings, yeah, I'd probably say they are, and that comes in a very, it comes to now a very good, weird way of looking. You might see them depending on you might see them in the second round, divisional
Yeah.
round. So,
Yeah.
they're going to be a tough team, and they're going to remember that opening game too, thinking like, what, maybe we should have won that game too. So, it'll make for good TV. It'll make for a good game to watch. I don't know. The Eagles will say like, yeah, we're ready to play, but it's probably not the best opponent they want to face that early.
Yeah, that's the one team that scares me, at least a little bit, from the standpoint, because I do think, like I said, Detroit is, they're just crippled. I mean, you lose a Lynn McNeil, you lose a Carlton Davis for the season, you lose David Montgomery for the season. They already lost Aiden Hutchinson, Malcolm Rodriguez, on and on and on. Marcus Davenport. It's unbelievable the attrition they've suffered, which tells you the stars have to align. And the Eagles are healthy for the most part. You got Jalen Hurts' shattered finger, but it's on his non-throwing hand, where Sam Darnold's got a bad pinky on his throwing hand. Stars are aligning for the Philadelphia Eagles. Chris Franklin. We know Nick Sirianni's not going to look ahead, but you can look ahead. Is this team ready for another Super Bowl run? Do we have to get hotels in New Orleans? Book the travel?
I think they are because I think the way with everything shaking out this past weekend, I think they get the 1 seed. And that was the one thing I said. I still think even with all that stuff, I still believe the Lions are going to the NFC Championship game. It's just something about that team, Dick, and that was
Well, they're
even
still
with all
going to
those
score
losses.
40 points, so
Yeah,
you got to outscore them, which you might be able to.
Yeah,
But
and you'll have them out that dome, out that fast track, and into in the confines of the Lincoln Financial Field. So, yeah, I think they'll host that game and they'll win that game. And we'll see them in the Super Bowl. I believe that too. Even with the way the road is shaping up, I think you'll see the Vikings. As much as we were talking all that stuff, I think the Vikings will be the 5. I think the Eagles will play the Vikings. I think they can beat them. It'll be close because I think Brian Flores is just a heck of a defensive coordinator
I
and the way
love
he's
Brian
utilizing
He's
Flores.
my
everybody.
biggest fear with the Vikings is Flores.
And the Vikings used to be, for me, like if this was last year, I really would have been worried, especially with the blitz. But the way that the Eagles the way Hurts is playing against the blitz, and it leaves some man opportunities out there 1-on-1, I feel comfortable enough with them. So I think they meet them. I think they meet the Lions in the NFC Championship game, and then I think we're seeing the Eagles. As much. I keep thinking the Bills. I really think the Bills, but something tells me about the Chiefs, and they may have little help along the way.
Carson Wentz in the Super Bowl. How about that?
Oh
story?
no! Please, no.
That would be
No.
the greatest story ever, Chris.
It'll be a great story, but it's just a whole. Well, like it's rehashing. I have PTSD from 2020. I don't want to go through that all
That would
over
be
again.
the greatest story ever. I don't want Patrick Mahomes to be hurt, but You know, I
The
could
fact that
see Kansas City getting through with Carson Wentz. That's how much respect I have for Andy Reid.
I don't. I think they'd be one and done because
If that
Carson.
happens, I'm going to start to believe. I'm going to start to believe the NFL.
Well,
skipped people.
I think one of the underreported stories of this season is the AFC stinks. The NFC is so much better than the AFC.
And we thought it was going to be the opposite
Yeah,
again. The first season.
yeah.
First season. I was like, you look at like even the South. You thought okay, maybe the Colts were going to even though they lost.
Boy, Shane might get fired after
and that's
those.
yeah.
Yeah,
I thought the Colts would be better. I thought the Texans would be better. And you look at everything. Yeah, you look at so many teams like, yeah, they're deep. The AFC was deeper. Nah, it comes out the NFC is, and who would have thought that coming into the season? But
yeah.
and that's the gauntlet you have to go through. But yeah, whoever wins the NFC wins the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Really does. And it comes down to it. I think the Eagles will come out the NFC, so I think we'll see a parade down Broad Street.
Oh, well, we're already making
I'm
parade plans. All right.
I'm calling it. I'll stick with it. I think the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year.
Wow.
If they stay healthy. That's a big
that's
caveat,
key.
but
So
Well,
one game, Chris, versus the Steelers, where they can pass the ball effectively.
oh,
One
oh,
game
no,
is
oh,
enough
no,
for you.
oh no,
No, I'm told by the head coach
Defense.
they've been efficient passing the ball the whole time.
no, it's I think it's I look at the defense. I think the
Yeah, I
defense
think
is
that's
really
fair.
key in order to hold everybody else because you see all these. You look at everybody else's defenses around the league. Nobody really stopped. Is really standing out like, wow, that's really fair. I mean, look at before we were talking about the
Speaking of the
Steelers.
defense, yeah, Chris, how much press coverage do the Eagles play on defense?
I don't have a percentage offhand, but it's I know Vic likes to have the corners looking back in the to the
Yeah,
quarterback
it's all
as part of their
offhand.
system.
It's
So
also.
it's looking at for oh.
I'm
Vic is there.
joking because I tell people this all the day that Vic plays all zone, for the most part, and they don't believe it. They don't believe it. Because they
Chris,
want
think about it, though.
Quinion to
You
be a
brought up the
lockdown
defense.
corner.
I mean, Chris brings up the defense. That looking at this 10-game win streak, Chris, the most points we've given up is 23 to the Jaguars. And you haven't played nobody. I mean, you're talking about one of the greatest players on earth and Lamar Jackson on the Ravens. You held them. You're talking about the Rams. You dropped 38 on the Bills. They put up 20 on us. I mean, the Steelers, Bengals 17. I mean, we thrive. We're holding every offense we go against, and sometimes you got to believe your eyeballs. This defense has proven they're good, and I know the Lions are scoring 34 a game at home. How many points are the Lions going to score on us? What's the realistic number? They're not going to score 15, but I don't think they're going to score 34. Is it 25?
I'd probably say at most 27. And the reason why I think they beat the Lions is because the Lions so banged up, they can put up 30, 35 burger on them. I think that it's that much that the Lions are so banged up. And they can't really stop anybody. Like you look in these big games that the Lions play, it's always been shootouts. And it's been a lot of them been at home too. So you get them away from you get them out in the open air. You force golf to like either throw the ball deep in the air with this wind and this cold, what have you, whatever happens. It usually happens around that time at the lane. And you look and if you force them to run, I feel confident the Eagles to stop Jameer Gibbs on the run. The only thing you have to worry about is Ben Johnson trying to scheme up some Jameer Gibbs out in the flat or those wheel routes against a linebacker. And I think that's enough that you can do where maybe use Cooper Disease, like the quote fly spy on a running back, what have you. It's unconventional, but you can do stuff like that. And Vic will find a game plan. And sometimes unconventional, you're like, what is he doing over here? He's watching this one, and then it flows into I don't know how he does it, but he comes up with some of his weird stuff. And that's why I really think this defense is going to be the one that who would have thought we'd talk about this in the NFL today? Like a defense really be carrying teams to the offense. The offense is really good. Don't get me wrong. The Eagles have the proportions to win the Super Bowl on the offense, but I think this defense is really an underrated story. Who would have thought this coming into the season?
Yeah, I really think that Montgomery injury hurts Detroit more than people realize because
it was all defense injuries. Now yesterday comes out Montgomery. I mean, they had some offensive line injuries, but nothing season ending.
Yeah. Part of Gibbs's success is just the nature of the Sonic and Knuckles Thunder, like whatever you want to call it, that sort of dichotomy of those two. You got the heavy hitter, body blow, body blow, body blow, and then all of a sudden you bring in this guy who's quick as a hiccup, and it's just such a great combination. And now you only got one part of it, so people can be hyper aware that it's Gibbs on the field. I think that's a bigger injury than people realize. I'm to the point where I've almost the injuries have gotten to the point where I'm almost writing off Detroit. You can't survive it. That's the NFL attrition. It's too much attrition, Chris Franklin. And the Eagles got 3 games to play. And so before we make that parade route, you got to cross your fingers and make sure that Saquon stays healthy. And he was a bit banged up in that game. Do you think it's time to manage, forget about records? Do you think it's time to manage to get to the playoffs? Or do you have to just keep going full bore as long as the number 1 seed's on the table?
I think I want to see what happens after this Commanders game, because that's the one, like, if it's right now with the total he had last week, I'm probably thinking he's not getting the record. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll still use him. Probably put him anywhere from like 16 to 20 rushes a game still. But I'm not going to like try to force it out there 25, 30, like 25, 30 touches overall. Like passing. I'm just going to say, you know what? And then I think you start to wane down. Like once you know like what seed you're going to be at, and even if you're the 1 seed, if you're in that final, if you go into the inner Giants that final game, you should, because I think the Giants in the huddle go 1, 2, 3, Cabo 1, 2, 3 break. I think they'll be at that point. But I think like you sit them in first, maybe you sit them just a half as well too, and then you have the bye week if you get that 1 seed to really let them rest up and feel better. So I think the record, I'm not even worried about the record at this point. I think it's over with. Personally, I think this last game just threw a ball, but I look at it as a way that, yeah, I still think he'll be able to be okay and fine, but I'm not going to manage. I'll wean him down as the final game go on, as I'm going along to see how everything progresses. Next week you need him because there's still that outside chance. I don't think it happened, but you still need to clinch the division first and make it a formality.
Yeah, got to clinch the division. Washington's still hanging around. I think the Eagles will get it done. Washington, good team, not a great team. I think they'll keep it going. They'll probably run the table. Who would have thought 15 wins potentially on the docket for the Philadelphia Eagles? And Chris Franklin's got him in the Super Bowl. So get
your tickets, everybody. Chris Franklin.
Send the nice emails to Chris Franklin at C Franklin News. Make sure you follow Chris on the X platform. Read him at NJ.com. Does a tremendous job, and he just made your day happier because the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, here we go. Goodness. Well, yeah. Just looking at the layout of the land. Just see it there.
I agree with you. I think they're the best team.
You're not off. I mean, you're right.
I think they're the best team in the league right now as we sit here on the snapshot. But, things can change quickly in this league.
Stay healthy. You need you need the MVPs not to be Saquon or have you need the MVPs to be the medical staff to get these guys right.
Yeah. And that's another thing. You don't have to worry about the MVP. Josh Allen won that last week. He's going to win the MVP. I don't care about rushing records. Bigger goals to be had for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I agree with you from that perspective. Are you going to coordinator day today?
No, I'm going to be watching at home.
All right.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to seeing you. Now I'm disappointed.
Me too. Put it that way.
So you got everybody excited. You got me disappointed. All right, Chris.
Chris is booking his flight to New Orleans.
Yeah, the only ones
there today. Yeah. Chris, thank you for joining me. Make sure you guys follow Chris at C Franklin News, one of the best in the business. Chris, we'll talk to you again soon. All right, brother.
All right,
thanks,
bud. Have a good one now. Thank you.
All right, Chris Franklin joining the show here on Birds 365. Great stuff from Chris Franklin. John, we're now getting
Super Bowl.
We are getting there, John, aren't we? We are now at the point in the season when many are predicting and projecting the Philadelphia Eagles to make the Super Bowl. What a time, everybody. Brian Pumper It's going to be a bad offseason for you, man. If this team can complete the task, I hate to break it to you, my friend. You might get a Jalen Hurts extension if they win this.
They look awfully good right now.
They do. If they can pass the ball like they did, John, versus Steelers every week, I think we're going to.
Well, there's no reason they shouldn't. That's why we were all.
I agree, but they didn't do it for a lot of the year, so I can't assume they're going to.
Yeah,
do
I
it
forgot to
every week.
ask Chris about the empty sets, the empty formations. I think that was helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no reason that you shouldn't have a great passing game with the talent they have, and they finally figured it out. We'll see if they can keep it going.